Good morning, everyone. My name is Scott Morris. I am the Director of Business Development for Gaming for GTS Distribution, and we're here with another one of our publisher retail webinars. Today, we're joined by Tom Wetzel, who's a marketing manager for Thames and Kosmos. If you haven't heard of Thames and Kosmos before, I'll be pretty surprised. They have one of the hottest lines of games on the market right now in the Exit series. They also make a lot of different products, both from a gaming perspective and from a toy and STEM perspective, which is really cool too. Today, we're going to be talking about Kosmos games, though, and we're going to be talking about three specific ones. One is a new line of games that is called the Adventure Series games, or Adventure games. One is called The Dungeon, the other is called Monochrome Inc., and they are very, very cool. They come in the same size box as Exit, so that'll look and feel familiar, but they are a very different experience and still very fun and very cool. We're also going to talk about a game called Skylines, which is releasing later this month, which is based on a hit video game that is, I think it's on everything actually now. I saw it on Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, PC, like everything. So Tom could talk a little bit about kind of how the board game kind of brings everything into the real world, so to speak. Just so everyone knows, if you have any questions, by all means, as we say, everything is on the table. So if you'd like to ask any questions, if you hover over your video window and click the chat bubble, you can add anything into the chat there. You have the option of sending a message to the panelists, which are myself, Tom, and Jessica, our sales director. Or you can send it to all panelists and attendees so other retailers can see your questions. Happy to answer any kind of questions anybody has. And then as a reminder, for any of our GTS retailer customers, if you order either of the adventure games this week, or if you pre-order City Skylines this week, between now and next Monday, which I believe, if I do my math right, is the 21st, you will get 52% off MSRP as well, which is great timing in terms of holidays and being able to get some extra margin, which is really good. So with that, I'm going to take my face that was rated for radio. I will let it be quiet. I will let Tom take over. But as I said, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask in the chat and we will get to it as we go through. Tom, the floor is all yours, my friend.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you very much. This is a great opportunity. While I'm sharing my screen, I can't see the questions. So if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them when the presentation is done. This isn't a very long presentation. I wanted to kind of be quick with this so that you can have some time to ask questions without taking too much time in your day. But if you've been to one of these webinars that I've hosted before, you may recognize this first page. I've kept it the same because I feel like it's important for us, and I think it should be important for retailers as well, what Kosmos means as a game company. And we take a lot of pride in having just top quality games, and these are kind of how I've broken that down. Let's see. So over 50 years of experience, and that I think speaks a lot, not only that we've been around for that long, but that we have that experience that we can lean on when we have new games or new concepts coming to us. Top quality materials and components. This just kind of speaks for itself. We use nice thick cardboard and nice card stock for the components. And we take a lot of pride in that. Wooden components a lot of times, because that's what German games typically have. We also have, with that 50 years of experience, a lot of the best designers will come to us with their games, like Rainer Knizia or Phil Walker-Harding or Matthew Dunstan, or any of these recognizable names. And also editors. We have in-house editors who go over all of the games very thoroughly. So when we produce a game, it's been through a lot, and I think it shows. Customer support. This one's important to me because I actually started customer support at Kosmos, so I know how serious we take it. It's something we, again, take a lot of pride in, whether it comes from the retailer or from the end customer. We go out of our way to make sure that everyone has the experience that we want them to have, which is the best. And then we have the top brands. Exit the Game, which we won't be going over today directly, but you'll probably recognize that as a good seller. Imhotep, Lost Cities, Legends of Andor, Drop It. Drop It, which is actually just now back in stock. So that one is just in time for the holiday season, which I'm excited about. All right, the three games really that we're going over, the adventure games, there's two in there in that line, and then City Skylines, the board game. And we'll go over both of these. Pardon me, my phone's rang. All right, sorry about that. All right, so as Scott mentioned, these are the same size and kind of look as the exit games, and that's intentional. That's intentional because we're trying to kind of ride that momentum. The exit games have done so well, we thought we would continue to use that momentum and release this new game, which, although is similar in appearance and similar in that they're kind of like storytelling games, they're quite different, and I'll get into some of the details later on. But Phil Walker-Harding and Matthew Dunstan, I know a lot of people I've seen in forums just excited that these two designers are both working together and releasing this type of game. So I think you can have a lot of people just right off the bat excited for that. And then it's a low price point, $19.95. I feel like it's a great holiday price, but also just in general, it's a nice price, especially for the amount of game, which we'll go over a little bit too. And as you can see, the exit game, same size, very similar. It's a black instead of gray fade, but it's very similar. Here's some of the components, as well as you can see the price again. The majority of these games are in cards and a book. Now, the book is pretty substantial. It's 60 pages, color, it looks great, and the cards are all high quality. So there's two kinds of cards. There's the playing size cards, and then there are the level cards. When you end up playing this, it takes up quite a bit of the table. Well, towards the end it does, because when you start, you usually start in one location, and then you expand and explore, and that's kind of how the game plays. It feels, well, I'll get into that more, but later I'm getting ahead of myself. This is just the components, which are really top quality here. All right. So super easy game to teach. I've been demoing this at shows, and I can teach people how to play it in just a couple of minutes. It's very intuitive and very easy to do. And it's also going to be on our helper app. So if people want to learn how to play the game and they don't want to read the rules, they can go on the helper app and learn how to play the game. Also, the helper app has, so there's a lot of reading in this. There's that big, thick book. And if you don't like reading out loud, or you just don't want to for any reason, you can use the app. It'll read you the entry that you're trying to discover, which is very convenient. It's a very accessible game. It feels a little bit like a role-playing game with a much lower entry point. You don't have skill checks, you don't have to build a character, you don't do anything like that, but it gives you a very good, like, I feel like when I'm playing, at least, like I am this character and I have special abilities and I can do things that maybe others can't. So I get into character pretty easily, and I'm not a role player specifically, although, you know, occasionally. So that's actually, I think, a very big bonus for this game, is that it's accessible, but it's a kind of game that not everyone has played. Not every family has sat down to play a role-playing game. There's 3 chapters in each of these games, and each of them is 90 minutes. So there's quite a bit of play, and you can replay it. I've actually replayed both of them twice now, and although the second time I kind of knew where the story was generally going, I enjoyed it the second time because I played with a new group and we went just a totally different direction with it, and I liked it, so it's definitely replayable too. And these games are out, they have been released, and they are getting really good reviews. Here's Tom Wetzel saying, one of the best games that I've played this year, so definitely check them out. And here are some of the stats. It does play 1 to 4. And the dungeon is 12 plus, and Monochrome ink is 16 plus. And partially the reason is it's not because of the component, or it's not because of the gameplay is harder, but because of the content. In Monochrome ink, you're taking on the roles of these people who are breaking into the evil corporation in town, trying to figure out what they're really up to. And we feel we shouldn't be encouraging kids to break into buildings, regardless of the motivation. So that's the reason for the difference in age groups, but yeah, they're both really simple to learn how to play. Again, 3 chapters each, 90 minutes each game, and they're, again, on the tutorial helper app, and it'll read the entries to you too, which really makes the game great, because we have voice actors who are doing it, and we have an editor who's going through and just making everything really nice and thematic and fun. And yeah, so I highly encourage you to check that out. All right, City Skylines. I'm pretty excited for this one. It isn't released yet, and it has a very it has like a street date at the end of this month, because the owners of City Skylines, the computer game, they have a big convention every year, and so they're going to release it officially at PDXCon, and that's going to be October 18th through 20th. So we can start selling them shortly after that, almost at the same time as Essen. So we're actually going to get it to distributors so that they can ship it out on the 24th. It's going to be available to you then. It's a PC game, on cardboard. It really does a great job of capturing the feel of the game. If you've ever played it, you start off, you feel like, oh, I've got a little bit of money and I've got all this space, so I can kind of go wherever I want. But it very quickly becomes a very tight game where you want things a very specific way and you feel a little bit restricted. It's a thinking game, and if you like the PC, either like City Skylines or SimCity, if you like those at all, you will definitely enjoy this. It's a lot of fun. The components, a lot of the imagery comes from the video game itself, so they're very iconic. People will recognize the images there, and I think it'll look well on social media, look good on social media. And then this one was designed by Rustin Hawkinson. He designed Tribes for us earlier this year, which is a great game, and he also designed Nations and quite a few other notable games. So he's definitely very involved in this, and it's great. Here are the components. You can see like that little bird figure and the skyscraper. All of these things are directly from the game itself, and cool. This is a heavy box. There's a lot of components. It's all that thick cardboard, and the box definitely weighs quite a bit, because not only do you have the game board, you have all those buildings and then the playing cards, and there's a lot of extra scenarios. So as you can kind of see, if you look at the breakdown of the components, there's quite a bit there. Why it's great. First of all, and I think I've said this, but I'll say it again, highly recognizable brand. The PC game has sold over 6 million units, which is great. And we do think that that's going to help get this game rolling from the beginning, right? People are going to recognize City Skylines, oh, I got to check it out. But then once they actually play it, they're going to enjoy it because it does a good job of simulating the PC game. It's physical, it's live, it's quick relatively compared to the actual video game. But I think a lot of people who have played the video game are going to play this and immediately fall in love with it because they've done such a good job with it. It's a co-op game, which is cool. A city building co-op game. I don't know if I know of one like this yet, personally. And the cool thing about it, I played it the other day, the intro level, it was a little bit tough, but I definitely think I could have beat it if I gave it another try. But with that experience, I know I can also make it harder because there's 4 unique situations and innumerable ways that you can start the game with different land tiles and different starting scenarios. So there's a lot of replayability in this game. And here's a quote from the New Yorker, just about City Skylines and how they have a very devoted following. So that is something to look forward to as well. Here's some stats. That's wrong. It's actually 1 to 4 players, excuse me. There is a solo mode for this. This is for ages 10 plus. I do think that that's a fair assessment on the age range, but this is a harder game, so I don't think a group of 10-year-olds who don't play games would really pick up on it. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but because it's co-op, if you're playing with a 10-year-old, they can definitely participate and feel like they're part of the game. Plays about 40 to 70 minutes. And again, this one is also on the Helper app. So if you want to learn how to play the game, you don't want to read the rule book, you can go to the Helper app and it will use animated visuals and text and audio to walk you through how to set up the game really quickly and also walk you through a few turns. It's very user-friendly, very, very fun to use that. Quick summary. Kosmos games, top quality. Wanted to reiterate that. It's very important to us. The adventure games already getting great reviews, and I've received so many requests for what's coming out next. And we do have games coming out. Next year we have at least 2 more in the adventure game line coming out. So it's doing well in Germany. It's already doing well here. We expect to do even better. City Skylines, popular IP. The gameplay, it really lives up to the hype. It's going to do really, really well. I'm super excited. It's a great game. And then this is my contact. If you ever need anything, questions or support or anything at all, contact at Thames and Kosmos is the one that'll get you the quickest response for sure.
Awesome. I just put that into the chat window as well so people can grab that if they need to. I didn't realize that Cities had 6 million downloads. That's amazing.
Crazy, right?
I've actually played the game. I have it on my PC and I have played it. You're right. I just actually did a Google search while you were talking about it. I cannot find a co-op city building game. Almost every single one out there is competitive in some form or fashion, trying to get more points than your opponent or plan your area better than their area. So that is definitely unique and very cool, which in this day and age, I know this year for sure, there's been a lot of push towards the solo option and the co-op option for games. So that's a really good fit.
Yeah, no, it's such a cool concept, and if you've played the video game, this will sound very familiar to you. But if when you play, you're actually trying to make your population happy, right? It's not about building the biggest skyscraper or the biggest residential area. It's about a balance of them all, and it's great because, like, you have, for instance, the available workers. If you have too few, that's bad. If you have too many, that's bad. So you want to just right. You want the same amount of workers as there are jobs. Makes sense, but it's an interesting concept because I feel like most games it's like, oh, like I'm just going to build up my workforce as much as I possibly can because that's good. And this it's a balance, and it's really clever. It's really cool. So
very cool, very cool. And as I mentioned before we started recording, I've had the opportunity to play the adventure games with my family. My kids absolutely love them. We're about halfway through the dungeon, and their attitude is, I want to keep playing this and have so much fun with it, but I also want to finish it as soon as possible because I want to do the Monochrome Incorporated as well, which is really cool. So. And the two of those are very, like you mentioned a little bit, very different in style, right? The dungeon is more of that like high fantasy thing, whereas the Monochrome is much more of like a high tech kind of modernistic look on things. So depending on what kind of customers, retailers may have walking in, those are really good options for them. And they're also, I definitely want to stress on this one, what you're talking about with City Skylines, with the timing of the release on the 24th. You and one other partner of ours, we've only had two that have been able to set a release date for a brand new release at Essen and also have the games in America at the same time. That is unheard of. I mean, literally unheard of. If you've been a retailer for a long time, you know that usually around this time of year, there's a lot of hubbub around these Euro games and these awesome things that are coming out at Essen. And then you got to wait until like middle of November, if you're lucky, if everything goes right, or maybe even December sometimes to get those games over here and imported to America. So having the option of having a game that's going to get a lot of buzz and get a lot of attention at Essen in your store the day of Essen, that's just phenomenal. So I think that's great. I want to thank you guys definitely from the Thames and Kosmos side for focusing on that and making that happen, because that just makes a retailer's life so much easier, because there's nothing more frustrating than having someone walk in going, hey, there's this really awesome game that's at Essen and I want to get it right now. And they're like, hi, how are you? They don't have an answer to it. So being able to just turn around and go, oh, you mean this game? And it's right here. That's phenomenal. So that's really, really good. So awesome. There haven't been any questions that came in on chat, but just as a reminder real quick, if you do have any questions, you can hover over your chat window, open up the little bubble, ask any kind of question you want. Of course, as Tom mentioned, the contact at tamesandkosmos.com is a great opportunity to reach out if you have any additional questions to him directly as well. One of the things that I am very excited about is that the adventure series is it is in the same physical size box as Exit, which is great from a merchandising perspective, from a retailer's point of view. But the games are very, very different in terms of the experience they give you and how you're working together as a group, or not working together as a group sometimes, depending on how the stories go down. I was really excited about that. I think we, as a family, we have played through 5 different Exit games all the way through, and they've all obviously each provided their own thematic and setting and everything like that. And when we sat down, we really kind of had that view of, is this really going to be a different experience, or is it not going to be a different experience? And we're really happy with it. From the very first room in dungeon where you wake up and you start having the interactions with other people in the cell and stuff, it's really, really cool. So I think this is going to be just the beginning of, again, another long line of games that'll be opportunities both for retailers to, stock a lot of different titles from the line, but then also for consumers to jump in and have those, hour, 90-minute game sessions with their friends at shows or in their game nights and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be a really good series.
Yeah, I think the adventure games are going to demo really well too, and people can get demo copies from you guys. I assume we usually have those set up, but it really demos in like 5 minutes. You can get people addicted in that short of time.
Yeah, there's a lot of mystery in the first 5 minutes, actually. So just the very first paragraph of reading from it, and I do like the fact you mentioned the app a little bit. If retailers don't know, Thames and Kosmos has a free app that's kind of like a companion helper to a lot of their stuff. It's a way to obviously connect with them online and digitally, but they have a companion app that I believe has the exit games are in there, the adventure games are in there. There's several of the other board games that are in there as well. That's also a great thing. We had a conversation, I think last week or the week before, about the digital side of things with retailers. And I had met a retailer at Gamma who had actually told me that he had an iPad and an Android device next to his register that had things like that on there. So when people came up and were asking about it, they could pull up either a companion app or a digital version of the board game and show it to them and use that to close a sale for a physical copy of the game right there in the store. So that's also, if you have anything like that in your store, that's a really cool thing to do, to be able to show people kind of the support that they can get from the publisher, not just from buying the game and having a good game, but having, you know, more access and more details and stuff as they go along and play, which is really cool. So awesome. So the last question that I have is, how much is the fern in the window? No, I'm kidding.
It's not for sale. It's not for sale.
Not for sale. That's all good. That's all good. Awesome. Well, retailers, I want to thank y'all very much. Thames and Kosmos is one of our best partners. It's always good to have them here and talk about their games. Their games have just continuously gotten better and better as time goes on. They're venturing obviously more into this adventure series now, which is going to be really cool. City Skylines, it's definitely, I mean, I didn't realize it was 6 million. That's way more than I expected, but it's one of those things where I'm stuck in the board game world and probably don't realize the big numbers of video games in their world for everything. But that is definitely going to be a winner for that Essen timeframe as well, which is going to be great. And as a reminder, if you do order either of the adventure games or if you pre-order City Skylines before next Monday, the 21st, you can get 52% off MSRP. So that's a great opportunity as well. And then as a final reminder, if you do have any additional questions that we didn't get to, by all means, reach out to Tom. Have any questions, you can reach him at contact@thamesandkosmos.com. You can also reach us here at GTS. You can contact me directly at smorris@gtsdistribution.com. We'll be happy to help you with any kind of questions you have around these or any of the other Thames and Kosmos games. So with that, thank you very much. I will see you in a few weeks at Essen across the pond. Retailers, thank you very much. Have a wonderful week in your stores and have a great time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.